The life of an international student has to be planned.
Can you share how your journey started as an international student?
It's quite a process. I would say I had a vision. And so I taught for a bit, almost about 8 to 10 years before I actually went to the university. So I became a visionary towards my own goals to achieve it. The journey was not smooth. Why? Because
from the time you made the journey from Ghana to study your master's to the end of your PhD, you spent about 10 years in school.
Well, when I saw the buildings, I saw the lab, I saw the computer labs with all marks, and I'm like, whoa, this is what I'm talking about. Right.
But when I came to the US, the structure and the nature of academic work made me a critical thinker.
That's right.
Hello guys, so welcome back to the channel. Now, today we have a special edition for our study abroad journey and process. Oftentimes when we talk on this channel, or most study abroad discussions focuses on the experiences of students who have gone through the process, like myself and many others, who share their story and how the process works for them. While that is always good and helpful, sometimes it is good to hear from people who actually review our application and make decisions, because those people also have different insight and different perspective that students like myself don't have. So today I have a special guest with me who is going to share this experience. He also came to the United States to come and study, and after going through the process, and now he is a professor, and through his interactions with students, interactions with international students, interactions in class, and interactions as a graduate, and interactions as a part of a graduate coordinating team with admission, this person is going to share his experiences, some of the things that make student applications, especially this time that we see a lot of competition. The study abroad environments have changed because of visa policies, because of new policies that new government or administration have made in the US. So today I have with me Dr. Eric Owusu, and Dr. Eric Owusu is quite elated because he's an assistant professor of computer information system in the Department of Computer Science at the State University of New York at Brooklyn. He holds a PhD in information technology from Towson University, along with a graduate degree in cybersecurity, publications design, and publication design. His academic foundation is complemented by BFA in graphic design from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. So Prof is our own. He has gone through the system as a Ghanaian, and I believe today he will share a lot of things with us. So Prof Owusu also holds a lot of professional certificates, and Dr. Owusu specializes in UX, UI designs, and has served as technology consultant for the international NGO YouthMap since 2012. I believe Doc will share some information about that with us. His work bridges academia and industry with a focus on cybersecurity, user-centered design, and digital transformation in undeserved communities. This is a lot of work, and I always value people who are doing so much and also have time to contribute to developing and training young people like myself and like yourself. So, Dr. Owusu, welcome back to the channel.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the privilege, that you've given me as well to share, some of these insights. Thank you very much.
Do that again. Yeah, thank you, Doc. And I know school is starting very soon, so you have a lot of things on your hand. As a professor, you are preparing for your syllabus. I believe you have already done that. You are reviewing the list of students, and so many things are going on at this point. And also, as somebody who is into graduate admission, I believe that is also another part of your job that makes your work very elaborated. So thanks for your time and for sharing this with us. But let's begin with this. You also came to the United States as an international student. Can you tell us, share with us some of your experiences when you started the journey? How was it like then? And how is it now? Perhaps within a space of 2 to 3 minutes, can you share how your journey started as an international student?
Okay. So on the context of, thank you very much for the question here. So on the context of international students, it's quite a process. Let me put it that way, right? I would say I had a vision, and the vision is simple. After my A-levels in Ghana, I became a tutor for a company called Anansi Systems in Ghana, way back in the 90s. I think it was 97, thereabout. And so I taught for a bit, almost about 8 to 10 years before I actually went to the university. And so I had one thing in common, and that was basically to pursue art, making sure I have the African art, because African art is very rich, by its own, domain. So I had to make sure I pursued that. And then after that, because of my IT, I was just a simple IT guy teaching, adults to use computer, because back in the days, we did not have that, balancing, phones, nothing was there, right? But because of my background, I got the opportunity to learn, COBOL languages. Those times we used to call it WordPerfect and all that. And then basically, I got a lot of experience. And those who know me when I was in tech can testify, because we're able to set up computer labs and all that. So although I was a graphic designer, my focus was also into computing and how you can merge the two, right? So although I was working in Ghana after school when I came back from tech, I was basically, still interested to pursue higher education, because the journey for me had been education. But then the processes or the criteria in which, we could gain admission back days were different, from the O level, A level, it was totally different from what we have now in the SS system. So just to put it in a short term here, I had a vision, and because I taught almost about 10 years, I knew one day I might become a professor. So I became a visionary towards my own goals to achieve it. And so I started my master's degree from a school called Savannah College of Art and Design. It's one of the best, design schools in America as well, and even in the world. Very expensive school, but then, I got in there with no scholarship, right? I had applied to schools like Virginia Commonwealth University, and a few others. But then because I wanted to pursue my MFA to the highest, I made sure that, I was going to a design school, which I actually went in there. So the journey was not smooth. Why? Because for you to say you want to study, especially in the United States, you really have to do some serious, background work, or you have to do a lot of research work. But then it doesn't end there. You have to actually think about, the long and the short term, if I should put it that way. What does that mean? And I wanted to join my colleague to open, a design factory in Ghana. That was the vision there, right? To get, because I used to work with a company called ICOM. It used to be in New Achimota back then. One of the best, industrial prints, back in the days. And I saw equipment and machines, and I loved it. So although I knew, one day I could be teaching in the industry, it opened my eye, because I saw all sort of cameras, I saw all sort of print machines that we use to, do this kind of printing. And so you have to do that serious background to know who you want to become. So after getting big contracts in Ghana back in the days, I told myself, okay, I think I'm not satisfied. I need to pursue my master's, and then I'll come fully into the business, right? And then I applied and came. At that time, I knew I was going to do my PhD, but I thought I was going to slow down a little bit, work and get money and come back and all that, So I did not do that proper investigation in terms of, how I'm going to afford my school. But eventually I came. So I started with Savannah College of Art and Design, but the tuition was very, very huge. Was at that time, a year was $45,000. And so if I had spent 2 years there, I would have spent about $90,000.
90,000. Wow.
Yeah. But then again, because we are involved in the international community, and that's why I'm hitting on the point that you have to do your background very well. I had a support. When I say support, everybody was supporting me in the family to make sure that, I'm able to go through. Because if you don't do that, then you become stranded at a point in time, and it could affect you in so many ways. So for me, I had that support. So after, paying my first tuition and stuff, all the money was gone, right? And then I was advised to apply for scholarship to get me some support, and then also, transfer, because $90,000 would have been a huge debt on me. And so, I took some advices. The dean at that time, advised me that the transfer would be the best, because you don't want to jeopardize, the opportunity that you have to study in the United States. And so I listened and I transferred to University of Baltimore to pursue, the publication design. So I started with the MFA, okay? And then from the MFA, I went to Baltimore where I was able to get the funding, I got a scholarship if you want. And then I was able to pursue and complete my master's. So I was done, right?
Yeah.
And then when I finished, they call something OPT, where if you are in the STEM program, normally you get about 2 years, a year. Normally everybody do 1 year. And then after the 1 year, you do 2 years, It's a way where you get some kind of industrial experience in the field that you study here in the US before you leave. And so after doing that for a year, because I did graphic design is, I don't know whether they changed now, but it used to be considered under the OPT for the 1 year. But if you do any STEM program, then it becomes 2 or 3 years, depending on, how
3 years,
Yes. So eventually, when I finished with my OPT in the industry, I love what I got, the experience I got. It added up to what I had already in Ghana, right? And then I immediately, there was one more thing I wanted to do because, like I told you, I was teaching computer literacy way back, in Ghana in the 90s, mid-90s. So I wanted to pursue the IT as well. So I applied for an IT program at Hood College, in Maryland. And then I got that, My background wasn't in science eventually when I started, So I had to do, they call something prerequisites, where you have to take some courses to balance, and then now you can start a program. But I think because I had the, interest already, I had some backgrounds in there, just that it's not documented as a certificate, right?
Yeah.
So I pursued a master's, in IT. That one, I did not get a scholarship to pursue that. So I was paying
To do that,
Yes,
Out
you
of
sell
pocket.
you sell, some properties, just to finish school, and then but then in all, I had a vision to go back and then, still do my industry. But then as I was doing my master's, my second master's in IT, I was talking to some of the faculty members that I had in tech at that time that, hey, I'm trying to come back, to pursue education or industry, but industry, I'll prefer the education more than that. And then I think they had changed the policy at that time that even though you have the MFA, which qualifies you to teach in Ghana, now they require a PhD before you can come to the classroom.
Oh, okay.
So that took me off a little bit. I'm like, wait, but I had planned that with the MFA, with the, master's level, you could do something. Now,
you can teach,
vision is changing, right? So
you have to rebrand and rethink
again.
about your
That's
own
why
path.
I said you have to really think about, on the unforeseen circumstances that could occur, your vision, project and all that. So eventually I told myself, okay, if that's the case and I still have the passion to teach, and because I love people, I like to impact people. It has been my life, from childhood, sharing.
Yeah.
So, and counseling, So I told myself, okay, since I'm in the IT program, then I would like to pursue the PhD after I finish, so that I'll know that I've hit the bar. Now, when I, go back home, I can do that. But then remember, I did my master's in graphic design, right? Although it was publication design, I focused on graphic design. And then when I finished, I did the IT. And the IT is not graphics. So it's like I have two combinations here.
Yeah,
from
two
the
separate.
IT, exactly. And,
background.
I married the two.
Okay, so in your PhD, you brought the two together.
I brought
So
together.
eventually,
that's why I'm doing the UX.
Yeah.
I do human-computer interaction a lot. That's my forte. Right? So when I finished immediately as I finished the master's, I applied to a couple of universities, and then I got Towson University in Maryland as well, in Baltimore, Maryland, right? And then, to pursue a PhD in IT program. So there are so many wings that I could plug in for you to understand the dynamics, because if you don't plan and do a proper research, just like way back at home, our parents would say, oh, we want you to become a medical doctor, so pursue that. But you finish that, you're like, no, that's not my point. That's not what I want to do, right? So eventually, had gotten grip of the IT, in terms of its degree level. And so I entered into the PhD program. And then with the PhD program that Towson had at that time, you have to pass a qualifying exam within 2 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, you can now start your research work. That is where you really get to know exactly which
Where
concentration
you want to
you
focus.
really
Yeah.
want to do, right? So I took almost every class, to write the qualifying exams, and I passed. And then I then sat down again. My professor, Jerome, did very well for me because I took his class, and then now I, had a very good interest in research. The methodologies that we use, like the framework of research, got me
Yeah.
so deep into it. I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I wanted to do with
What I want
academia.
to.
Exactly. And so, just to cut the long story short, I went through that process, and then eventually I found out that God has given me a talent, which is art, that I took way back in 1988, 89, all the way down to, 95, 96 when I finished my A levels, right? So that talent is that I customize it into graphics with computer
Yeah.
graphics. So now,
Yeah.
after doing the IT, I realized that it was so much easier for me to relate to interface design because it's art. The screen that we're talking on, the
Yeah.
background color that we have, the uniform everything we talk about is art, right? So now the question was, what problem would I be able to solve based on what the eye sees?
Yeah.
Exactly. So the human-computer interaction has that flair. The user experience design have that flair because today we have companies who are designing and they're just designing for the people. But today
Yeah.
it's the user content that drives most of the companies. So if
The
you look at the
designs.
major
Yeah.
company, UX design has become a very big deal in it. So that's where I specialized in, and then I completed.
Yeah.
But then as an international student, the journey. So if I calculated the time that I started the program till when I finished, and I said, okay, I think I'm done now. I can go home and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't less than 10 years.
Wow. So, Doc, you mean that from the time you made the journey from Ghana to
Yes.
study your master's to the end of your PhD, you
Yes.
spent about 10 years in school to
Yes.
finish
Yes.
your
The
academic
entire,
work, which means that
right.
as
Right.
you said, which means that this is something that must be interest to you, right? It's a journey that must interest you, something that you want to do, you desire. It's not something that you feel like you want to travel, so you want to pursue, because
That's
spending
very
10
That's why
years in class
exactly.
it's a lot.
That's why I said that it's a vision, that
Yeah.
you get. And also the key thing about, academia is that I in my own words, I call it should be a calling from above. If you don't have the
Yeah.
heart to teach, if you don't have the heart to be in academia, you can't do the job. Why? Because you are dealing with people, and not everybody's
Yeah.
on the same par. So how do you blend the two? There are a lot of dynamics, It's not a place where I say you can be rich and say you're a billionaire just like that. No, because you're serving people, the interest of the people is at heart more than what you're actually gaining.
Yeah.
Right.
You
then
touch more lives.
exactly, and I feel good about
Yeah.
it when I see my students, doing well. Even way back in Ghana when I was teaching accountancy systems, when I see, I've taught a lot of people how to use computer. Think about it, and
Yeah.
it's just
Yes.
it just gives me that fulfillment of impacting what God has given me as a talent, if I should say.
Yeah.
So the life of an
Yeah.
international student has to be planned because there are policies that change daily, there are policies that change yearly, which affect your plan. So
Yeah.
if you take a simple step, because I started my first master's in 2009, and I completed my PhD in 2019, 2020.
Wow.
Yes.
10 years.
And it's back to back to back, no gaps. When I say no gap, because you are on the
Yeah.
international front, your F1 status is what is carrying you. So you have to make sure that you stay
Yeah.
within those. And I make sure I follow the rules and regulations in that. Then
Yeah. You
you'll
don't
be
get out of
status.
status. You're
No, you don't
always
want to
in
do that.
status. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was always
Yeah.
making sure I'm doing the right thing. So I got scholarships, along the line, that also supported me financially to complete the program. Because if you think about the costs involved in all these processes, then man, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, Doc, let me ask you before we come to the school application proper. So if those who are watching us and thinking about studying abroad, sometimes people have the notion that when I travel to America, when I go and study, my life will change. Like I will get money. I can, like, people see me or see not me, like their colleagues using iPhones as soon as they come. And my iPhone is still on credit. I'm still paying every month. I pay $30.
Yeah.
And I'm paying that for 36 months, right?
Yeah.
But when you are making the journey, what do you think students should prioritize? What must drive them? I know you touch a little bit about it, but can you also go into some kind of detail before we come to the school application itself? Let's talk about the life of international students in the US, even now. How difficult it is, and is it a life that is easy, a life that will make people comfortable as they feel and as they think or as they see or as it's being portrayed?
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's a good question. So again, I'll step back and hit you on a vision, right? Why do you want to do a master's program? Is it because it's a hearsay, everybody's doing master's, so you want to do it? You have to ask yourself that question. But the key thing is the background study. When I say background study, knowing what you want to achieve, your research. Very, very important. Because it's the master's program in America is 2 years. And then you are done. But then there are policies and guides for all international students. There are no gaps. You can't even take online courses unless, on certain special requests to some level where you have to seek permission from this university and stuff like that. So now, it's a 2 years program. You have to take not a minimum of 9 credits or else you're out of status. Okay?
Yeah.
So 2 years, you have to finish whether I like it or not. Think about it, right?
Yeah.
So it means that proper planning has to go in. When I say proper planning must go in, it means that every year, let's say you don't have any scholarship, every year you have to cough up 9 credits of tuition. This is minus what you're going to eat and where you're going to stay. Those are out. Or if it's you journey, in my case, I was driving, about not less than an hour to go to school. So location too is important, right? And that's why when you look on the form, when you're applying, they put accommodation there. Everything they put there is for a reason, and it's very true. It's for a reason. They've done this for years, so they know how it feels.
And they know.
Exactly. So you really have to pay attention to those documentation and do a proper research. If you are here and then you have the support system financially, or your parents, in Ghana have the support system, then you are even better. But then the point is, think about it. It's a 2-year journey. So let's say, the tuition, let's just peg it on a normal kind of average tuition in some of the schools. Let's say you spend about $35,000 for the entire 2 years. Now, you have to calculate that in Ghana cedis, right? That is how much that, you can put that into calculations here, right? So now, will you be able to save $35,000 for 2 years on just tuition?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's something you can afford.
Can you afford
You have
it?
options. Yeah.
Yes.
And Doc, these days people go into loans like
interest.
Yeah.
Which has interest. At a point in time, I had to do that. Within my long stay, I just took a little bit just to support me or to cushion me a little bit. But the interest, they don't play. Everything is calculated. You will pay, whether I like it or not. Right?
Yeah.
And when you're international, because you don't qualify for governmental funding and stuff like that, loans, it was a private, bank
loan
that I had to get a co-signer so that I can get some part of it. And it wasn't easy, right?
Easy.
It wasn't easy. So that's why I said you have to have the vision, but then you have to do a proper research. A proper research. Why? Because if you don't do the proper research, you get stranded along the line. And that is not sweet. When I say sweet, I know people have gone back home because they couldn't stand the heat. And people gave up. People are asking questions, and some are becoming, I think I heard stories about people being out of status. The moment you let me know that you're out of status, my best advice is that please go back home. It's better. Because why would you have degrees in Ghana and just come and hustle? Right? How long will you be hustling? So and that's what has played that effect today where deportation has become very high and all that because undocumented and stuff like that. So fortunately, the few that I know or I knew finished the program and they went back home and they are doing well as well too. But because I had a passion to teach and I wanted to gain more experience in the IT field on that higher level, That's why I went into academia fully,
Sure.
and
Okay.
that had been my
Yeah.
story.
Doc, so briefly, before we jump to the admission and application process proper, can you also share some of the benefits? Do you think it is worth it to study in the US or to study abroad as an international student? How relevant is this opportunity or this exposure for your life, for your career goal, and for connections? We've talked about some of the struggles, but can you also highlight some key, at least two key things you believe really change your life because you studied abroad?
Okay. So the first thing I want to touch on is infrastructure.
Okay.
When I say infrastructure, I mean the tools that we need, to prepare us to compete in the industry. In that sense, the hands-on projects, from software to any form of material that you can think about. Because I work in ICOM, I work at ICOM, way back in 2006. I saw physically with my eyes the industrial machines that printed all these billboards, the books, money. It was called Roland.
Yeah.
So now the point is that I saw it with my eyes, and then I asked myself, if I want to get into such an adventure, I mean, will I be able to pursue machines like that? How am I going to even do this?
Yeah.
Here in the US, it's right in front of you in the classroom.
Yeah.
Savannah College of Art and Design was a place that I saw, like all the stuff that, we used to print are there for us to experiment and study and learn
to
with
use.
it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the exposure of some of these equipment, the exposure of the software, in Ghana, Photoshop and stuff, we struggle before we can even we get the older versions at that time. When you're in academia here or when you are in the industry, you buy them and then it works. The updates, everything is accurate. Internet has been a big deal ever since I went into IT, way back even from Anansa Systems, right? In the 90s.
Yeah.
And so internet usage is a big deal. Infrastructure again. I understand in Ghana it's very expensive to even purchase. I've done a lot of research about some of these, we call that communication tools. One of my research work I did where I used Ghana as one of the samples. The computer mediated tools are less, like the Zooms, things are better now, to be honest, compared to back in the days when I went to tech and all that. In fact, let me just bring the story in there because it was funny, right? Things have changed, like I said, so I'm happy about that. When I went to tech, I saw a lot of improvement. I'm like, oh yes, this is what we're looking for, but we are still not there yet. We still need to do more. With the support of everybody, we can get there. And that's one of my passions, to give back, to community. But then this will give you a clear example of why I'm trying to approach it this way. When I went to tech in 2002, 2003, I was surprised that the whole department that I was in never had any computer lab. If they had one, it was just one computer sitting down with how many students that we were? Over 100 or 200 students or 400, if you combine all the year groups together. Meanwhile, I was teaching computer and we had labs where students were coming to train themselves from the university. So I told myself, we need to change this narrative. So this is what I did. The president at that time in the department, his name was Felix Bani. I remember him very well. Was a student of mine way back before I came to university. And then he was the president of the College of Art at that time. So they had a program they call Socializing, where, they collect dues and then they have a big program and all that, right? So I wasn't comfortable with the way they spend their money to enjoy, and don't think about the future or equip themselves more with, some of this important stuff that, will put them into the future benefit. So I remember I spoke to Danny about it and I said, look, Felix, we need to change this narrative. You are in power. You have the money. I can lead you. We can buy computers and set up a computer lab for the students. Bani listened. And then we're able to establish a computer lab for the first time led by students by buying, I think, 20 to 30 computers. And that also helped the professors to teach. And it became a lifestyle. So my thing was that if you become a leader, what will be your legacy that when one day you leave, it will be in the history book that you were the first person that set up this computer lab. That was my
Basically,
approach.
yeah.
That from the website that we developed, everything that we did was strategic in that sense. So
Yeah.
again, hitting back to the point that you asked, the infrastructure we don't have. Here we have it. Right from
So
the day that I
basically,
landed in school, computer was just there for us to use for free.
so basically, you are saying that when you study abroad, you have the opportunity to gain practical experience and exposure through your exposure to infrastructure, resources. I
Yes.
spoke to a
Yes.
student who is into chemistry, and he was amazed with the lab. When he entered
Yes.
the lab, he
Yes.
thought he
Exactly.
was.
That's one thing
he
that
was
when I went to Ghana,
amazed.
that was one of the things that got me. When I saw the buildings, I saw the lab, I saw the computer labs with all marks, and I'm like, whoa, this is what I'm talking about.
You feel
So that joy
overwhelmed.
alone, exactly. So infrastructure
Yeah.
is very important, for me when it comes to
Yeah.
one of the things that makes you want to study and then get more experience. Again, the way in Ghana we have something called a national service where you get to work in industries to get some industrial experience, profession and all that. And if you're fortunate, you get in and all that. Here is what they call the OPT, or sometimes they call that CPT.
The CPT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you kind of get some internship to get that, but the numbers are more, so it's very difficult sometimes to get, especially for the international front. You are competing with people who are citizens here, right? So sometimes it's tough in terms of the demands and all that. But then few of them have gotten that, especially if you're very good academically, you can get that. But then you have to really work harder, times two to get some opportunities like that. So the thing is that for me, one of the things that made me feel like, oh yes, I mean, getting the experience here was better was that immediately I started my PhD program, they put me in a classroom because of my experience. So when I was in Baltimore, I was working part-time, within the school. You can only do 10, 20 hours. But I was a lab manager.
Yeah.
So again, an industry experience, because I had experience already in Ghana,
Yeah.
it was easy for me to transition here because the same process. But then when I went into my PhD, I also taught for 5 years because I taught already in Ghana way back, in the 90s. Those exposure that I had opportunity to teach in a university setting was an eye-opening for me.
Yeah.
So my industry expectation, was even much interesting because then I'm able to give hands-on real-life projects based on my IT, background, in the classroom. This is hardly to get. I know in Ghana, the highest normally you do is to teach, become a TA, in a university, and the few people will be able to teach, But here, I think the preparation for a journey, for such journey,
it's practical.
It's very practical. It's huge. You get that, and so.
And Doc, let me also add one thing that I was fascinated when I came to the US. Aside the practical, sometimes when people talk about studying abroad like we do, we often emphasize the practical aspect that we forget that there's a huge theoretical aspect that also prepares you in so many ways that we didn't have in Ghana. I value the education I had in Ghana because it gave me a good foundation to be successful in the US. So our education system, of course, have its own downfalls. It is really rigorous and it is very helpful to prepare us.
Right.
But when I came to the US, the structure and the nature of academic work made me a critical thinker.
That's right.
I was able to think outside the classroom. Your academic preparation is not to make you define, suggest, and state answers, right? It prepares you to analyze situations, be a good reader, and be a good critic.
Yes.
Right. So that has been very helpful because you don't only take that in the field, you also personalize some of those things in the way you live, in the way you look at issues. That is why oftentimes people back home are always saying that when people travel, now they become critical. When people come to school, they become critical. It's because the education system exposed them to a different way of seeing, a different way of becoming, a different way of making analysis, and a different way of doing things that help you as a person in conversations, in making proper research, and in making contribution to wherever you are. So that is something I also value in becoming, or in the journey of becoming an international student. Something that I believe those who are interested should
let me even add this interesting part too, because that is also very true and it helped me. So when we talk of ratio or proportion in terms of class sizes, because they have the infrastructure, and because they have a lot of resources, they're able to develop courses in different sections. And when I say different sections, when I was in tech, it was just 2 groups. and we're more than 100. So if they have to
Take the
demonstrate
same
something,
classes.
exactly. If they have to demonstrate something, 50 eyes have to stand up and look at what is going on. Here in America,
Yeah.
because it's a system where they have small schools, they have bigger schools, they have research schools, they have, comprehensive school in terms of teaching, they have community colleges
Community
and all that.
colleges.
Exactly. So what happens is that in my institution, for example, it's a class of 30 with 30 computers. So everybody is assigned to a class where there are different sections, making sure everybody has that resource to practice on their own. So the class size gives you that more, room to practice or experiment some of these theories or designs that we teach them, right? So
Yeah.
in Ghana, for example, Legon, I didn't go to Legon, I went to Tech, right? But then the class size for maybe one class, you're talking about over 100.
Yeah,
So
I went to
credit-
UCC. I did Bachelor of Commerce, doc, and in my class we were more than 250.
There you go.
Some of us had to stand outside and learn.
Exactly.
So you
right?
are outside and you are learning into the classroom. You
Exactly.
are keeping to
Exactly.
write notes. And
But see, the good thing
and-
about it is that it also brought a different perspective in terms of the way you reason and think about stuff. So the fundamental principles that we get in education in Ghana is also very important.
oh yes,
I respect them a
yes.
lot.
And
After being here for a while, I respect Ghana in how we achieve, especially how they're able to produce their music, how they're able to write their books, their research and stuff. I get because internet is expensive, by the way, in Ghana.
yeah,
So again, the gap is so different that you when you come here, you're exposed a lot. And if you want to take
Yeah.
all the experience you have here down there and expect the same, you'll be disappointed, right? So as an international student, these are some of the things that gets into you trying to grab as much as possible, inputs and outputs, if you want to combine them as for that kind of career that you want to
yeah,
pursue. The exposure
Thank
is more, and also the infrastructure, the system. Think about it. It's a system that they've taken
Yeah.
so much years to build, and it works. All right. So once you join a system like this. When you go to Rome, you do what the Romans do, right? So
Yeah.
eventually you get caught up, with that. You get experience, and
Yeah.
then when we come back home, we can also put that together.
So basically, what you mean is that 24/7 the system is working. Right?
I love politics, but I'm not a politician.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you want to put it that way, yes.